the biggest, most important thing that you need to do as an artist is make your art, is create. Because everything that is weighing you down and that is overwhelming you and that is the shadow looming over your back is going to get worse and worse and worse the more you bottle it. You not taking your art seriously is not only a betrayal to yourself, but it is a betrayal to the world, and it is a betrayal to the art that you have yet to make and that needs to be made. If you're wondering why you feel so lonely and sad and depressive and confused about your direction in life and nothing makes you happy professionally and you just can't figure out what's wrong with you, nothing's wrong with you. You need to do your work, which is your art. And I get that this is difficult, right? Because we don't always have the structures in place or certain privileges of being able to have an endless amount of time and freedom to have space and energy and all this stuff to do the thing. But we must. You need to find a way. It doesn't have to be magnanimous and expansive and huge and outrageously open at first. If you just start small and you commit to a certain number of hours and a certain number of spaces in your day, even if it's tiny, it will make a difference. And then once you build up your ability to have the structure in place of actively doing it, you need to create the structures to make this something that is a serious part of your life, because it is a serious part of your identity. And once you acknowledge that to yourself, it needs to be put into practice. And then once you've established a solid practice of making this something you don't just feel but something you do, then figure out how you're going to present it to the world. And it doesn't have to, I would guess that most of us would love and would aim and aspire to have art be our profession. But even if that's not you and it's not something you're concerned about as far as like your income, then you still need to take it seriously as far as your craft. You want to get as good as you possibly can at whatever it is you do. If you sing, if you paint, if you write, you need to take it serious. Treat it like a job. Even if you don't care about making money from it, even if you're not someone who's aiming to do that, treat it like a job, because only then will you feel this intense sense of fulfillment and purpose and alignment with your identity. Finally, you will no longer be aimlessly wandering through the world like a fucking ghost, figuring out where you belong, because you will center yourself into where you belong and you will allow yourself to have your purpose come through. Writing in particular, there's so many studies about writing being an extremely beneficial therapeutic act. Everything that we encounter in life, writing can guide us through it. It's a very unique and particular form of being able to conceptualize all these nebulous, difficult feelings that just weigh us down and get into our body and they don't have anywhere to go. And when we write them into conceptualized, tangible thoughts that no one has to read, by the way. This doesn't mean you have to write a memoir. This can just be literally you writing to yourself, like diary style, right? Or not, just whatever, typing something out in a note and deleting it. And as we do this more and more, it opens up the ability to push those energies and that flow of thought into our art. There's Dr. James Pennebaker, I think, I'm messing up his name, but has a very thorough set of study about the act of writing and how it is incredibly therapeutic to get us through our shit. And a lot of artists have probably been recommended or have heard of a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. In that book, the main takeaway that I would recommend to anyone who reads that book, aside from there's some very thoughtful and lovely questions and things to get you really thinking about your identity as an artist, but is the concept of the morning pages. Basically, what we do with the morning pages is that every single day you're doing a brain dump from whatever is in your head onto a page. And then another important concept of this is that you are not supposed to read it. We're not analyzing it for our grammar and spelling. We're not being like, oh, this sentence is bad. Wow, this reads like shit. No one's gonna look at it. Not even you. That is not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to move the feelings and thoughts and things that are the chaos inside out of the body and through the brain and onto a piece of paper, because now that it's out, it's no longer living in here weighing us down like a heavy cloak. Okay, so when you do this every single day, you can decide, people do different things. You can decide 10 minutes, you're just going to free write. It doesn't even matter what it is. You can write about your dreams. You can write about the terrible day you had yesterday. You can write about what you're excited about. You can write that you have no idea what to write about. Oh, I'm doing these morning pages just because I'm supposed to. I wonder what's for breakfast. Oh, I have so many errands to do today. It can just be thoughtless, meaningless, nothing. And in doing this, the act of doing this every single day, repetitively, continues to clear the buzz, clear the stress, clear the noise. And then as you do this, you're done. You don't mess with it. You don't look at it. You don't try to edit it. You just move on. And now you're free. Your thoughts you're talking to someone, but it is not another person. It is a way to expel these little secrets inside of us. And if you're worried about, rereading it later, or feeling embarrassed about it, or feeling sad, or feeling like people might read your thoughts, just delete it. Just crumple it up, light it on fire, get it out of your body, get it out of your head. That's why art, specifically writing, has an unbelievable impact on healing traumatic experiences, on healing our way through functionality, on disease in the body. Writing things down is a healing practice, is a therapeutic practice. And even if you're not a writer, you need to get your thoughts onto paper, and you will be amazed by how much it will help you. Why do we experience not only the sadness and turmoil of life so deeply, but why is it that it's even worse when we're not expressing? Because this is what we're here to do. This is what we have to do. This is what we're tasked with doing. Every human has creative capacity, but there are some people who are artists. They just are. And if we ignore this in ourselves, and if we listen to our societal influences and all our limitations around us and all the things that tell us we can't do that, we literally are slowly being eaten alive. Like we are become a husk and a shell of whatever thing that we're trying to emulate, and we become very non-functional. It's unbelievable how much your life will improve when you simply devote to yourself, that you allow yourself to have your actual identity and be who you are. Stop worrying about what other people want from you and start thinking about, how are you going to live the rest of your life this way? Are you really going to be able to do this another 10, 5, even 2 years, feeling like this and not barely functioning like this? No. Give yourself the permission to be who you are. And not only that, but make the dedication and the commitment to yourself to actually step into who you are. You will finally be someone who feels in alignment with what this silly little thing called life is doing for us and how it affects other people. I have a theory that a lot of the time we're so upset and miserable because we don't feel like we're contributing. We don't feel like we have a purpose. We don't feel like our life matters because it doesn't matter to someone else. And it's not that our life has to matter to someone else in the sense of relationally, but when we are in the process of creating art, suddenly our life becomes irrelevant, and we are one with the entirety of consciousness and the entirety of creation and the entirety of what it means to have a soul. And that entire experience is so much bigger than us, and it takes away the heaviness and the pressure of our little problems and our big problems. And also it creates this levity of, if I can conceptualize this feeling of despair into something outside of myself, and someone else who is feeling this type of despair can access it and feel through it, we can collectively heal together, even from opposite ends of the world, even from other languages, even from other cultures, other aspects of, even across vast stretches of time. We still read Shakespeare. We still read, experiences and stories and thoughts and feelings, and we relate to individuals who we will never meet, who we will never speak to, who we will never know anything about them personally on a literal level, on a one-on-one level, but we still feel their thoughts deeply and their experiences deeply, even people who don't exist, even people who are imaginary. We experience the conscious unity of what it means to be alive. And when we step into our art and we step into our purpose of creating art, we realize that we are contributing to this bigger puzzle, to this united question of, what am I doing here? What are we all doing here? And I think that makes it feel like, and it does actively actually contribute, because we can in some way connect or heal or come together, again, even across space and time. And the more that we are surrounded by the pain and suffering and difficulties of the world that is our present day, it's really hard sometimes for us to feel like we have a right to engage in what some people might feel like is frivolous or pointless or is not doing anything. Or even if it's not the stakes or being that high, it's just our energy is low. We are sad. We are uncertain. And when you feel uncertain and you feel hopeless and you feel aimless, it's really difficult to muster up a bunch of momentum to do something that might seem silly, or that might seem like, what's the point? It's not going to matter anyway. It's not going to make a difference in the world or in my immediate life. But that's just not true. And just because we can't see an active change immediately doesn't mean that change isn't occurring. And a lot of the time, change is incredibly invisible for a very large stretch of the actual change that is happening. And it really does just take one single person to create a movement, or to create a change, or to plant an idea into the consciousness of the world. There's so many examples of books that obviously there is endless lists of banned books that people are so threatened by that they think, school boards and places, government officials burning books, whatever, they think that, oh no, people can't know about this concept, because now they'll come together and they might have the most dangerous thing on earth, which is collective thought. So I'm trying to think of like a really good example among many, many, many art pieces that changed the world. Uncle Tom's Cabin is a really good example. I'm looking up the year. So this was 1862 by Harriet Beecher Stowe. And Abraham Lincoln apparently said to her, so this is the little lady that made this big war. This book, that was an anti-slavery book, literally decimated public thought at the time. The impact of literature and of the works that we create are countless and endless. All this to say, stop feeling hopeless. Stop deciding it is hopeless. That's pointless. That's not going to do anything. If you're in a fortunate enough place to be someone who has the ability to even ponder making art, and you have the freedom in your life to make that a reality, then you have an obligation to do so. It is not acceptable to just lay down and wait for the world to end and decide that all hope is lost and being an artist is a waste of time and robots are taking over. They're not. That's not true. People have felt this way since the dawn of civilization. If you're gonna be hopeless and make something. How about write a dystopia novel? How about you make a gloomy, sad, dark album? or you write a screenplay that is so sad, the opening scene to the final credits, people are bawling, but do something to organize this emotion and put it somewhere else. Because you're not the only person who's experiencing these emotions, and if you want to do, even if it's just self motivated, if you want to feel better, you got to acknowledge your duty. You've got to acknowledge who you are. It doesn't, even if you're not an artist and you can't step into your identity, you're going to be miserable. So let yourself be who you are. Time to make art. Stop moping around and make a plan. And you can still be sad, but be sad and make some art. Be sad and write a little poem. Okay? The world needs your art. We need each other's art. Think of all the art you engage with constantly that, like, I can't imagine functioning as a human being without the art that I engage with in my life. And if you had to imagine a life with no music, no film, no television, no books at all, no visual art, no paintings, no fashion, no cosmetics art, no anything, nothing beautiful, nothing emotive, nothing that isn't just pragmatic rules and systems and oppression around us, there would be no hope. But that's not the world we live in because of people like you and me. So do not let this be the end. It's time to make art.